Morning, friends, welcome to Brimwood Farm Saturday Night Livestream. So if you are, it's the evening wherever you are, I hope you're having a wonderful evening. But again, obviously it might be an afternoon or it might be a morning if you're over in Australia. So wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having a great day. If you are watching this on the replay and you were frustrated because you missed the live, hit the bell next to the subscribe button and you will get notified whenever I go live, and it means that you don't have to miss out. So as always, we will do a quick update on the week that was. I've got a couple of things to tell you guys, and then we will go into our main, live stream and chat and questions and that sort of thing. So you might have noticed this week there wasn't a vast amount of videos. In fact, there was only one, and that was because this week has been quite busy and there's a lot of stuff been going on behind the scenes that I will tell you about in due course. So there was only that one video yesterday which was about the parsley. So the one thing that I really want to do better this year is growing herbs and selling herbs as well. Now, a lot of my egg customers take eggs away, and they have said that they would buy herbs as well, fresh herbs. So as you know, I started really early. So I started in January, and I sowed coriander, dill, basil, and parsley. And I've already pricked out and potted on the coriander and the dill. The basil is under some grow lights, and I've just sowed some more today. And obviously I have the parsley that I was doing. I sowed some more flat leaf parsley today because, as you saw from the video, none of that came up. But the curly leaf parsley is doing really well, and it's potted on and it's going to grow on really well. And then the idea will be once it's proliferating and I've got loads and loads of little plants, I can then sell bunches, just with an elastic band, bunches of coriander, dill, parsley, basil, that sort of thing, with my egg boxes as a way to generate a little bit more income for Brimwood Farm. So that was my main video. There'll be a few updates as well, obviously, on Smallholding Diaries tomorrow. The two baby budgies are still going strong. The older one is kind of putting on a bit of speed, so they were kind of both the same size to start with, and the older one's obviously getting a bit more feed, so it's got a bit bigger than the other one. But they're both being fed. And their eyes are both starting to open. So that means in about a week, the colours will start coming through, and then we'll find out whether Pluto is the dad. So she had 4 eggs, 2 hatched and 2 were unfertile. So it's conceivable that she actually managed to store enough stuff from Io throughout the 5 weeks that 2 of her eggs were fertile from him before. So we will see with the colours as to what happens. And then next Sunday, obviously we'll have a live stream before then, but next Sunday is the Bird Keepers Association sale. And so I'll be going to that with a view of getting a couple more birds. So I want to buy, I was going to pair Sunny and Pluto together, but I'm going to stop Sunny breeding after this lot because she needs a rest for the rest of the year. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to buy a new mate for Sunny, and then I'm going to buy a new mate for Pluto, and then I'm going to breed Pluto and his new hen, and then their babies will be a separate genetic line to Sunny and Io's babies, so then I can cross them, so then I can have some nice pairs. So that's the update with the budgies. There's also an update in terms of our guard goose. So after doing quite a bit of research, talking to people in a similar position to me, I am not going to get a guard goose anymore. I am sure that there are many great reasons to get guard geese, but I just don't think in my situation it's going to work. Geese have a very high diet of grass, and I don't have any grass here. It would be living in the poultry yard. I've scrapped my grass, and I don't think it's fair on the welfare of the goose. I was thinking about the welfare of the chickens. Obviously, I don't want them eaten by the fox. And this, I was just thinking, right, get in the goose. He can be the sentry. But actually, I need to think of the welfare of the goose as well. And he wasn't going to get any grass to eat because there's no grass. It was always going to be in a fairly confined space, and chickens and waterfowl really require different things. you know, your waterfowl, they do need some water to have a bath in, but also their main feeding habits, they need to be able to get their bill right under some water when they're drinking, and they need to be able to dibble the water and all of that. And so again, that wouldn't have mixed so well with the chickens. So instead, much to my delight, but maybe my neighbours' not delight, I am going to go down the guinea route. So I am going to get some guinea fowl hatching eggs. Now, guinea fowl are notoriously loud, extremely loud. They are also notoriously good at escaping. I am hoping that with some research and some taming, I will hatch some keats and manage to get the keats to stay within the confines of the run. Possibly I might have to do a wing clip. They will definitely raise the alarm. Now, the slight issue with guinea fowl is they may raise the alarm for every single thing that happens. So a sparrow flies past, they may raise the alarm. They hear a voice, they may raise the alarm, but you get the idea. But I'm going to go for guineas, and the nice thing with guineas is they, unlike the waterfowl, they don't need anything to bath in, they don't need anything to paddle around in. They will eat basically the same food as the chickens, and so they should live fairly harmoniously. We'll just have to contend with some noise issues. So we'll see how we go. But that is the plan now, going down the guinea route instead of the guard goose. The guard goose route. Because the main thing was I needed sound. I needed an alarm system. I didn't want my goose to chase off the fox. I just needed an alarm system to tell me something was wrong so I could dive down the garden quickly, because at night they're completely safe. It's just in the day when they're out and about. So keep an eye on the channel, because there will be guinea fowl eggs coming. I have also found my source for my golden pheasants. So they're not going to be laying until probably next month, possibly April. March, April. So they will soon be on their way as well. I found a couple of places that I can buy two different breeds from, two different breed lines from, so that I can have a nice genetic cross when it comes to breeding them. So that's really exciting as well. I'm going to just take a breath. And so finally, I do have some big news, which is huge for me personally, and will affect the channel to some accounts. Now, we moved here 3 years ago, and I wasn't really homesteading before we moved here. I was up in London. I had a tiny little garden, not really very big at all, at least only a third of what I have now. And it wasn't until I moved here that I was kind of homesteading. And my work up in London was gardening. So I had a gardening business, and in fact I still have a gardening business. But I'm driving in and out of London 3, 4, 5 days a week. It is absolutely tiring me out. There's nothing worse than being self-employed, stuck in a traffic jam for 45 minutes, and you're just watching the time tick, 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 tick away, and you're not earning anything. And it's costing a lot in petrol. And so I made the decision to start winding that down, and look for a part-time job. So that was a scary thing for me, because I haven't been employed for over 15 years. I've been self-employed, I've generated all my own income. So going in and being employed by somebody else was a scary thought. But you know, you've got to do what you've got to do, and I need some money to come in so we can fund this future small holding and the dream up at the farm. So that is the plan, and I am really happy to say that this week I have actually got a new job. So it's part-time. It's not going to negatively affect the channel. In fact, if anything, it's going to reduce the amount of stress on me massively. It will reduce the amount of financial stress on me massively. And so it just means that I'll be able to put more time and energy and positive energy into the channel, because I won't constantly be in my background thinking about money and what I'm earning and things like that. So I have got a new job. I cannot tell you what it is quite yet. I really want to, but I also do not want to jinx it, because I was looking just for a random run-of-the-mill job, and what I've actually found is something so perfect that I don't quite believe it. I'm in a bit of disbelief still. So you will find out what it is over the coming weeks and months, I'm sure. I will definitely tell you what it is. But for now, I haven't actually officially started the job yet, so I can't tell you. Again, it's part-time, so I'll be working sort of 3 to 4 days a week, and then I'll have the other time to concentrate on YouTube, on you guys, and on all the stuff going on at the farm. So to celebrate, normally, obviously, I'm drinking my steaming cup of tea. This week, I have wine. Actually, I have mead. This is blackberry mead, and I was given it. Look at that. I was given it by a friend, and we cracked it open last night, and it is absolutely divine. So I'm going to be sipping at some lovely blackberry mead tonight while our chat goes on. So I think that has caught you all up to date on everything that's going on, and I'm very excited, and my spirits haven't been dampened, but they're very much lifted. So big changes are afoot, as London Worms and Garden has just said. So I've seen loads of chat whizzing past, and I don't know who's here. So let me say hello to people. Little Beans Garden says, lol, love the wine. You've got to love it. I keep calling it wine. It's mead. I should say it's mead. I don't know whether that sounds posher or poorer. I don't know the difference, but it's very, very nice. So Zulia is here from California. London Worms and Gardens, Liz is here, Robert's Farm, Sandra, hello Sandra, Danielle's here, Fringe Dweller. So thank you all so much for congratulating me on the job, and I will tell you about it in the future. Ross is here. Hi Ross, thank you. So Ross has actually asked a question. What do you feed your chickens? I use layers and corn, but thinking about growing fodder to supplement their diet. Wonder if you tried it. I haven't tried fodder. I have recently switched the diet considerably. So over the past couple of years, I've really just been feeding them layers pellets, because a commercial layers pellet actually has everything in it that your chicken needs. But the expense can rack up. So I have recently changed them over onto fermented grains and layers pellets. And what I'm finding is they are fuller. The fermented grain is what is it? It's a barley, I think I'm using. And I ferment it for 3 days, and after that day it's swelled up and it's taken in loads of moisture and it's really high in nutrients and protein. And I'm feeding it to them every day. I'm finding it's keeping their stomachs fuller for longer. So not only are they happy hens with full tummies, they're not eating as many layers pellets. Now I am leaving the layers pellets on hand so they can grab it if necessary, because as I say, the layers pellets are made with the chickens in mind, and all the nutrients and things that they need, and calcium and stuff like that. So they still have layers pellets to peck at, but what I'm finding is after they've gorged on corn, they are happy for the rest of the day, just sitting there with full bellies, and they're not eating the layers as much as possible. So I haven't grown any fodder in response to Ross's question. They do get the tops off leaves. So yesterday we cooked a load of beetroot. So before I brought them into the house, obviously I whizzed all the top of the beetroot off and I threw the beetroot leaves to them. So they get things like that, but I haven't grown any fodder as it was. Let's see. Sandra says, never had red mead. I've never had mead at all. It's really nice. It smells of blackberry. It's a bit like a cordial. It's really, really nice. I highly recommend it. I don't recommend necessarily drinking wine on a live stream. We'll see how I go on, but it's only one. So Robert's Farm says, spring must be coming. The combs on my hens are getting larger and more red, and the ducks have come back into lay. That's great. And Liz says, oh, they'll have purple poo. Well, I only fed them the leaves, so hopefully they won't have too much purple poo. That is the other positive of the fermented grain. With layers pellets, they wolf it down, and crikey, do they poop. But I have noticed less poo with the fermented grain as well. So anything with less chicken poo to deal with is always a big bonus in my books. Oh, and I forgot to tell you earlier, those little quail chicks, I have quail eggs in the incubator, so they are due to hatch on Valentine's Day. So there are 29 eggs, so I could soon be very overrun with baby quail, which is very exciting. Gardening says, don't let it go cold. It's not cold. It's cold anyway. So I don't have to worry about it. It's not like a mulled wine, which you heat up. It's just a cold blackberry mead. I'm going to have to find out how to make it because it's really, really yummy. So today it's been kind of crazy busy as well. I actually went to a chicken party. Now I say a chicken party, it wasn't a party with chickens. It was just a party with lots of chickeny people that I've met on Twitter, and quite a lot of them live in this area. And if you've watched Chicken Check-In, you will have recognised them. So I met her with Hamilton Hens. She was on Chicken Check-In. I met her with E17. And he's the guy who rescued those broilers and is kind of growing them on and seeing how they'll do. And then a couple of other chickeny people as well. So that was a good day. And I sold a couple of Danver pullets. So I drove up to Chelmsford, dropped a couple of Danver pullets off at this chap's house, and then went up to this chicken party. So it's been a great day. Very, very busy. And now it's absolutely pouring down. So hopefully it dries off a little bit. Robert's Farm says my quail are due to hatch on Wednesday. That is awesome. Now, what is Wednesday? Let's get my calendar up. Let me just look at my calendar here. So Wednesday's the 14th. So my chicks are due on the 14th as well. So that's really fun. So, well, fingers crossed for all of our chicks. I do find with quails, the hatching rate isn't as high. I don't know, any of you keep quail, let me know. But I have found that, you know, with chicken eggs, I can be fairly certain when I'm doing it for my own birds that 99% of the eggs are going to be fertile. Now, not all of those will hatch because sometimes you get a red ring, the red ring of death halfway through, or sometimes you get a couple dead in the shower and they don't hatch out. But I can be fairly sure that most of them will be fertile. The quail, on the other hand, I find are not so great with those fertility rates. So I think I set 27 last year. Yeah, so last autumn I had 27 in, and I think I got 15 out. So just over 50%. So I tend to do a ton of eggs. So although I've got those 27 eggs in, I'm expecting again between 10 and 15 chicks. If I get any more, great. But also it's the middle of winter, so your fertility is likely to be lower anyway. So we'll just see. But that's really, really cool that your chicks are due on the same time. So Sandra says meat is far too easy to make. That's good to know. Honey has to be good for you. Yeah, hell yeah. Dan says, I went to a poultry auction today. Yay! We love a poultry auction. I got a new coop and I really wanted to get some silkies, but I'm considerably poor. I think we all are. I mean, I know we're not in January anymore, but we're still the start of the year, aren't we? Our first poultry auction starts up on the 4th of March, so I'm really excited to pop along to that. I'm going to be selling birds actually more than buying, because I don't like to buy any stock in anymore. But I'm excited just that the show, that the poultry season is getting going. Obviously, we've had the poultry shows over the winter period, but now the poultry selling season is getting started, so that's exciting. Plus, the hatching season is getting exciting, which is even more good. Charlie says, I got some quail 2 weeks ago. Awesome. So, should they be laying? Well, my first question would be, how old are they? And also, where are they kept? Because quail, well, I mean, I was going to say quail are, unlike chickens, are very seasonal layers. Now, actually, chickens are seasonal layers as well. You will find that if you don't buy if you buy chickens that are becoming pullets, point of lay, at October-ish time, they will lay through the winter, but then they'll settle into a seasonal rotation. And older hens tend to stop laying through the winter, and you get that decline in egg production. The same thing with quail, but my quail do it to a more extreme level. So my quail will literally, the first sign of cold in October, boom, they're shut up shop, no more eggs. And they won't then start laying again till March, April time. The only reason I have had eggs this time is because obviously I did that hatch later on in the summer, so I had those young hens coming in. So Charlie's just saying the quail are a year old. So if they're a year old, they're probably now they're probably already grown into the seasonal pattern. So you will probably find that as we go into spring and the day length starts to get longer, your hens will become back into lay. If they were younger, I would be a bit more worried that they weren't laying. But if they're a year old already, they'll probably be in that seasonal production cycle already. So I would just keep an eye on them. If they're inside, you can extend the light levels just by leaving lights on and things, and you might start to get some eggs. I would also try giving them maybe a little bit of extra calcium to get them going, and possibly some live mealworms if you can get hold of them, because quail are very insectivorous in the wild. London Worms and Garden says, so many quails on Valentine's Day, so many cards to write, so little time. I know. Can you imagine if Robert's Farm's quail are all hatching out as are mine? There's going to be a quail explosion. Robert's Farm says, I think you mentioned before the quail try to drown themselves, but I think I've got a shallow enough bowl. Yeah, quail babies like to commit suicide. So I have found with chicks, I know you're supposed to leave them in the incubator for a good 24 hours to fluff up before you move them to brooder, but I often move them beforehand. With quail, I have found that they really need to be left in the incubator because they get cold really quickly. So I leave my quail in the incubator for at least 24 hours after the last one has hatched. So they get left till they're really, really fluffy, and they're fluffed up and they're all still alive. Then when they go into the brooder, you have to be really careful. Loud noises. I've made loud noises before, just a book falling off the edge of the sofa or something, and they're like, ugh! And they die. But drowning is the main one. So I would highly recommend you try and find some marbles or some like aquarium gravel or something like that. And even if your water dish is shallow, because I thought mine was shallow, but it wasn't enough, just put some gravel into the water so that they can't actually get their whole head in. They can just get their beaks in and they can still find water, but they can't actually drown in it, and it makes it more difficult. I prefer the gravel because with the marbles there's still holes between, whereas if the gravel you can kind of just bed a piece of gravel down, they can still get the water but they can't drown. Liz at By the Farm says, thankfully our local poultry auction is on Saturday, and cos Mr J is working I can't get there, so no bought-in birds for me. Phew. I know it's very tough at quail auctions. It's very tough at poultry auctions, although I have ended up buying quail before. We also bought some partridge eggs by complete accident. We decided not to hatch them. But yeah, it can be quite difficult. Mine's on a Sunday and it's within walking distance. So there's no getting out of it really. But as I say, I mostly just sell rather now, because I don't like to buy in birds. So if I do buy anything, I tend to buy hatching eggs. But then hatching eggs at auctions are never what they're supposed to be. Never. So I don't really tend to do that either. Dan said, I also wanted some buff Orpingtons and I can never say this, Vorwerks? Is that how you say it? Vorwerks? But I guess I can't have everything. One day, Dan. One day. I do love Vorwerks. They are beautiful. Gardening with AJ. Hi, Gardening with AJ. How are you? A bit off topic, but I took some rose cuttings about a week ago and a bit... Oh, sorry. Mead. A bit off topic, but I took some rose cuttings about a week and a bit ago. When will I start to see growth? So rose cuttings can take ages to root. What you might find is as the spring weather and the warm weather appears, you may have a few buds appear, but they will probably do so just because the plant is still thinking it's spring and not because they've got any roots. They do take a long while to root, and it can often be 6 months to a year even before they're properly rooted in a pot. So it is a long old process. So as I say, you may well see a little bit of growth appear in the spring, but that's probably just on the reserves of those cuttings already. So, like a bud will have already started to form before winter hit. The cold weather will have come across and put it into dormancy. And then when the mild weather comes along, then that bud will burst. But the plant will then go, oh, I ain't got any roots. And so it will stop, and it will change all of its production into root growth instead of bud growth. So you may see a little bit, but then don't be disheartened if it stops and those little bits die off. It's not dead, it's just taken a while to get going. Roses do take quite a long time. Yes, so actually Liz has already answered that, saying ages away, but yes. Charlie says, this is in relation to your quail, I suspect. I thought they were a pair, but they're both hens. That's the other thing with quail. Now, I don't know if this is completely true, but I have certainly found it myself. If you keep hen quails on their own, they don't tend to lay. Unlike chickens, you do tend to need a boy around with quails to get them in the mood to lay. So that may also be a slight issue. You may need to go out and find a boy. Fringe Dweller says, do you sell quail eggs to eat? And if so, who and where do you sell them to? I do, although I don't sell as many as my chicken eggs. So I hardly personally get to eat any of my chicken eggs because they all get sold to customers. So I am normally left with quail eggs. So I have a couple of people that just buy from the garden gate. And when I say garden gate, I don't even have a stall outside because I'm in an urban environment and I worry about theft. So I just have a sign up and people have to come to the door and knock when they want eggs. So I have a couple of regular customers that love quail eggs and they just come and buy them whenever I have them. I've also got a few customers that are sort of Facebook friends and things, and so when I'm in their area I'll just put a shout out saying I've got extra quail eggs. But mostly I eat the quail eggs myself because, as I say, I don't get to eat the chicken eggs. And we eat a lot of eggs here. We use it as kind of our main protein against meat. So especially since we've been breeding our own birds, our meat production has actually kind of fallen because we tend to only eat the chicken that we rear. So we use a lot of eggs. So we go through a lot of quail eggs. So we tend to eat it ourselves. Liz says, show us a quail dying again. I don't quite get it. And Little Beans Garden says, oh my god, they get really scared. They do. Robert's Farm says, I have an electric hen for my quail. How high do you think I could have it off the bedding? With my quail, I tend to have it quite short because it's not off the bedding. You kind of want to do it by the height of the babies. So the babies should not be squashed by it, but they should be able to kind of stand and have their backs against it. So I would put it, what, to that maybe? And just see if they run under it and how they are. You will tell whether they're not warm enough. As with chickens, they will huddle together and they won't come out for looking for food because they'll be cold. If that's the case, just lower it a bit. But yeah, you probably do it about that much so that when they're standing, their back can be above against the heat plate. You don't want to get it too low because, as with my Ixworth, my chicks at the moment, I had the heat plate in there, and my Ixworth grew a lot quicker than my Silkies. And I noticed probably last week that on both shoulders the Ixworth had obviously been crammed in there and it actually burned some of the skin, and so now the feathers, instead of growing out straight, they're growing out in like little whirligigs, so it looks like this poor little chicken has shoulder pads. So we've decided if it grows up to be a girl, it's going to be Joan, after Joan Collins and her huge shoulder pads. But yeah, so just make sure they don't get burnt by, because those heat pads, those false hens, can be really, really hot. Ross says, top tip, if you can't get mealworm, go to your local fishing tackle shop and get white maggots. Other colours are dyed. Chickens and other birds love them, around £2 a pint. And that's a lot of grubs. That is a great tip, because we all had heard the argument about feeding dried mealworms, right? You're not allowed to do it. But live grubs and worms, I think you can. I'm not going to say for certain you can, but I'm fairly sure. I haven't come across any regulations saying you can't feed them live mealworms. So that is a great tip. Sandra, yes, so Sandra is hatching chicks as well. So Sandra uploaded a video to our Brimwood Farm community group on Facebook, and Sandra says, quail number 9 just hatched. Yay, that's great, because you were really worried and nothing was happening, weren't you? And that is the thing with quails, they don't really do a lot, and then suddenly they start popping out all over the place. And also, it's snowing again. I love snow, but I'm so over it. And so I really feel your pain, Sandra, because I feel it's still snowing. I mean, I know you're in Scotland and you're probably expecting it, but I want signs of spring now. I don't really want any more snow. Paolo Giorgietti says, with your chickens, do you add apple cider vinegar in their water? Yes, so I do that once a month. So once a month for 5 days, or the space that it takes them to drink like a whole tub of water, which is normally, my drinkers normally last between 3 and 5 days. So once a month I will give them a 5-day stretch of apple cider vinegar. I don't leave it in there all the time. I don't think you need to have it in there all the time, and you can go through it really, really quickly. And if you're not making it yourself and you're buying it in, you don't want to use it constantly unless you've got the money for it. So I use it, 3 to 5 days every month I give them the ACV just to help sort of boost their immune system. And then I also put garlic in the water, so at different times. So I'll do ACV for between 3 and 5 days, once a month, and then normally probably once a month as well. I'll give them a couple of garlic wedges floating in their water drinkers for at least a week. And that again gives them a bit of an immunity boost. I think I spoke about it in my sick chickens video. It's no point waiting until they're sick to give them these things, because by then they're sick. So it's a good idea to kind of give them immune boost throughout the year. So yes, do that if you can. Robert's Farm said, I tried my first goose egg today. It was delicious. I can't even remember the last time I had a goose egg. Just one egg is a meal. Yeah, hell, yes, very true. If I ever have my dream farm, I'll have about 50. Yeah, you should. I do love geese. And I am a bit gutted that I can't get a guard goose, but it was going to be a boy, so I wouldn't have got eggs anyway. Yawn is here. Welcome to the chat, Yawn. So Gardening with AJ says, what has everybody been sowing? So yes, please, if you've been sowing stuff, tell us what you've been sowing, so we can all catch up. As you know, I've been doing my peppers, my parsley, and all my herbs. I haven't put any more seeds in. I've sown a few more parsley and a few more basil, but I haven't kind of gone to any more varieties. It's obviously February now, so I do need to start thinking about a few more seeds. Spinach, for example, to get those, because spinach don't like to survive the summer, so I probably... Oh, I've got an eyelash. I probably need to get my spinach going. But yes, please, tell us all in the chat what you are growing and what you've been sowing. Charlie's here. She's saying, sorry I came late, but how are the finches and the budgies? Or actually the buggies. But the budgies are great. So the 2 babies are doing really, really great. And a week tomorrow is the bird sale. So I'm going to be getting another mate for Sunny in the future and another mate for Pluto. So there'll be some more birds to show you. And the finches, they still have those eggs, but they haven't hatched. They've not been very good at sitting on those eggs. You know, when they've been in the aviary before, when they've started to lay, they've been tight on those eggs. And I mean, finches are flighty, and I'd be able to put my hand sort of right up to the nest box hole before one of them flew out. But they've not been sitting on them very well, so it may be a case of they're infertile, or they're just still getting acclimatized to not being in the aviary and being in a breeder cage instead. So, but I will keep you updated. But they're all fine for now. Nobody's died. Everybody's happy and healthy. Oh, Liz says, you did a great impression of a quail being scared by a loud noise and keeling over. Yes. What, this? Ah! That basically is a dead baby quail. Yes. When they die. But it's awful because, you know, you just live round the house. It's not your fault if you make a big noise, but they don't like it. Their little hearts don't really last very well. I do find, though, it's funny because when they're chicks, they're so fragile. But as soon as they're adults, they're darn hard to kill. I mean, I haven't lost a single quail the whole time I've been keeping them. They are very, very hardy little things. Dan said, my fancy pigeon I told you about kicked her egg out the nest. Oh no. And it's cracked. So let's hope she tries again. Oh, what a shame. Dan has a beautiful ornamental quail on his Instagram, and he shared it with me, and she'd been laying, and she's obviously now thrown the nest out. One thing I'm hoping to get next week along with the budgies is some diamond doves. Because I do like diamond doves, and I kind of like, their babies are really, really ugly. Squabs, which are baby pigeons, are really quite ugly, and they basically look a bit like a bag of bones. And for anybody that's seen Harry Potter, the last Harry Potter where you see Voldemort, the dead little Voldemort when Harry, you know, pops his clogs and goes off to the railway station. And Voldemort is basically like a just little gelatinous bag of bones. Reminds me of a squab, but they do grow up to be very, very nice. Hello, Jay. So Jay is here from Australia. Jay is one of my Patreons, so very welcome to the chat. Good morning to you. I hope you're having a great day. How's the weather over there in Oz? I hope it's a bit warmer than it is here. And Brian is here. Hi, Brian. Welcome. And Anna is here as well. Hi, Anna. Welcome. So Brian says, hi, Jeff. And Anna says, hi. Sorry I'm late. Can you tell me what age roughly hens start laying, please? Normally between 6 and 9 months. Obviously, it depends on the hen. And I found that my bantams tend to start later than my larger fowl. If you've got hybrid hens, obviously they've been specifically bred to lay eggs, to produce a large quantity, so they often start a little bit earlier. But yes, It also depends slightly on the time of year. So if you get high point of lay hens in sort of October, November, which is what I was saying earlier, they will just start because they're not into the seasonal cycle, so they will just start laying through the winter. But if they're kind of coming into point of lay, maybe, I don't know, just January, February, you might have to wait a little bit longer because it's still cold and they kind of haven't got used to the weather yet. So yeah, 6 to 9 months. How old are yours? And we can maybe try and work out if they're going to start laying soon. Yeah, so Dan says mine have just started laying at 6 months. She's a bottle of gardens and preserves. Yay! A new subber from Aussieland. Hi, welcome to the channel. I don't know very much about preserves. So welcome, and please fill us all in because that's one thing I really, really need to get better at is preserving. I'm very good at growing. I'm very good at harvesting. I'm not very good at preserving all this fruit and veg, to last me throughout the year. So Brian says, this weekend the break is off, loads to sow. I know, we are in mid-February now, so it is really getting to the time where we're going to be planting tons and tons of stuff. And soon, every single windowsill across your house, your heated propagators, everything are just going to be heaving with little seedlings. And then you're suddenly going to realise, I've got to prick all of these out. And then you're going to be buying bags of compost and pricking them all out, but it is fun. It's nice to get your hands in the dirt. And that's what I was saying to somebody the other day. This channel has been very much livestock over the winter. So finally getting some herbs on and managing to get my fingers in the dirt and muddy was really, really nice and gave me that good kind of gardening feel again. So Ross has got leeks and onions to be sown this coming week and then chilies started by the next week. Great. I don't tend to do chilies because I don't really like hot stuff, but as I say, my sweet peppers are already in. Are my onions in? Yeah, my onions are in. And my leeks I have not done yet. And I don't know if I'm going to do leeks because I don't know if I've got really enough space for them. Patrick is here. He says, hi Jeff, I would just like to say a huge thank you to everyone who helped me out with the gosling. Although I'm a rehabber, I can't know everything. How come you can't get a gargoose? I think I've missed. Just to recap for those who might have joined the channel, joined this live stream a bit later on. I'm not going to get a gargoose now because of my situation. I haven't got any grass. 60 to 80% of a goose's diet is grass. And they need different requirements than chickens. So they need somewhere with water to get in and have a preen and a bit of a bath. They need to have a deep dish so they can get their beak right in to drink properly and dibble. So I think for the sake of the goose, I'm going to steer clear and I'm going to get guineas instead. And the guineas, I can have several of them so they can bond to each other, but they'll still raise an alarm. Where I also felt a bit bad that, a goose is a social animal. So perhaps it's better to keep them in groups of geese rather than try and just get it to bond to chickens. So that's my personal reasoning. But I'm really, really glad that little gosling is running around. For those of you that don't know, Patrick was on our Facebook group and he had this little gosling hatch and it couldn't stand up and its legs were all wonky, but he strapped them together and he kept it feeding, and then he uploaded a little video of this running across the room, and it was just delightful. And I was really pleased to see this little tiny little gosling was up and running. Sandra says her potatoes are going in. That's brilliant, although I don't know how because you've got frozen ground up there. Been leaving some to shoot, great. I grow them everywhere, you can't beat them. I know, and I do find once you put potatoes in, you normally miss one. And then they come up years and years and years from all those little spuds that you've left in the ground and forgotten about. And you can just get potatoes for years and years and years. I am going to try some this year, but I'm not going to do them in the beds. I'm going to do them in tubs. So I'm going to get a couple of big bins and do them in those so that I can just stand them out of the way. Fringe Dweller says, hi Liz. So she's talking to Liz Zorab. I have been watching your channel and I think it's great. Keep up the great work. I am looking forward to a vid you do with your friend featuring her alpacas. So am I. I would like to see that too. Brandon and George, I'm thinking about doing a Q&A myself, but what is Q&As about? Just anything. You can set the tone of the Q&A. So obviously I just leave it to you guys to decide what you want to ask me. And it's a homesteading channel, obviously a homesteading and gardening channel, so it's normally themed around that sort of question. But yeah, you can do any Q&A. You could set topics for your viewers to ask about, anything that you like. It's your channel, so go mad. Robert is here. Hi friends, sorry I'm late. That's okay, Robert from Daybird Avery's. It's great to have you here. And he says, I love my diamond doves. I love them too. And I was really, really re-inspired when we went to that Barleylands Farm Park a few weeks back, and we went to that Cage and Avery bird walk-in, and they had those diamond doves, and it really made me crave them again. And I had them when I was a kid. My parents hated them because I sold them, 15-year-old boy. Oh, they only coo during breeding season. They won't make dove noises all year round. The problem is, the breeding season does tend to be 365 days, 12 months a year. And there was once when my dad had heavy flu. And I didn't have an aviary at this point. So this was a 15-year-old lad with 3 flights and cages and aquariums all packed into his bedroom. So my parents' bedroom was here, my bedroom was here, my dad had a heavy flu, and he said if he had got the energy to get out of bed, he would have come into my bedroom and strangled that diamond dove, because they did coo a lot. But I personally love them. I would like to find a pied pair, because I think they're particularly beautiful. So I may do a little bit of filming at the show and show you all the stuff. When I went last year, it was incredible, and the range of birds was just amazing. Everything from budgies, rosellas and parakeets, lorries and things like that, all the way down to tiny cherry finches, zebra finches, Bengalese, Gordians. So I will try and do a little bit of filming so I can show you, because it is absolutely stunning. There are a variety of birds you can get. Ross says, I've got a Patterdale dog. He once killed a wild baby rabbit by looking at it. Oh no. The rabbit literally just saw the dog. The dog did nothing. The same happened to me with my guinea pigs. Again, when I was younger, we drove into the driveway. The dog got out of the car. I looked across the garden and I realised Suki, our guinea pig, had got out of her run. The dog didn't even touch her. But again, she saw it come in and just went, eh. And I kind of wonder whether it's an evolutionary thing. Because no prey animal, like a little prey animal, like a guinea pig or a hamster or something, none of them want to be alive when they're being eaten. So I kind of wonder whether it's an evolutionary trait, so that when they know death is coming, I'm not going to get out of this is going to get me, I wonder whether life has... I'm probably completely wrong, but I'm wondering whether life has given them a sort of an inbuilt switch, so they basically just die quickly rather than being eaten to death, if you know what I mean. Jace says, just finished a heat wave, so loving a cooler morning. I bet. I'm not a fan of heat, and I can imagine a heat wave over in Australian summer is very, very hot. Charlie John says, I really need a new light Sussex cockerel. What happened to the last one, Charlie? I do love a light Sussex chicken. They're very nice. I would like to get them again. Robert's Farm says, I've just made a deal with the old lady who owns the corner shop. If I give her a dozen eggs a week, she will save vegetables and bread just past her sell-by date and the mouldy food for the compost. Oh, that's really good. What a good idea. And all of that would be thrown out, and probably be thrown out in plastic bags and then go to landfill, and yeah, it's going to rot, but it's going to rot inside plastic bags, which is of no help at all. So actually, that's a really good. And then you can supplement your compost heap, get that heat up, burn everything in that really, really high compost heap and make great compost from it. So that's a very, very good idea, actually. Very good tip. Brian says, nothing. So this is in relation to sowing, what he's sowing. Nothing I sow will be in the house or will be in the cold greenhouse. And that is a good way to do it, because obviously in the house it's going to get a false heat. And then you have difficulties with acclimatization. So if you can start things in a cold greenhouse, and certain seeds obviously like the cold to germinate, and they do perfectly well. So if you do those sorts of seeds in the greenhouse, they're already acclimatized. You can keep the frost and the snow off them, of course, because they're undercover, but they are ready, and then you don't have to do tons of that acclimatization thing, moving them in and out of greenhouses and cold frames and things on warm days. So that's a very good tip for people that haven't got a huge amount of space in the house. Use cold varieties of early veggies, so spinach, sweet peas, things like that, and you can do them outside. Robert at Daybird Avery says, I wish I had a light Sussex. They're about $25 a chick. Blimey. Blimey, that's mad. They're probably only about, what, £2 a chick over here? I wouldn't think they're very expensive. Anna says she sewed 80 small trays today. My son Ali helped, but he got bored after the 10th tray. I'm not surprised. 80 trays, blimey. You are going to be smothered in seedlings. That's kind of cool though. I do like it. So Fringe Dweller says, hi Jeff, I am going to be so jealous when you get some guinea fowl. Lol, but in a nice way. I've wanted them for so long, but I've always put it off because I've just heard about the noise. Well, a number of things actually. The noise and the escape artistness of them. You know, most people, you know, when I go, I'm part of a guinea fowl Facebook group, and almost every day when I log on, somebody says, I've lost my guinea fowl. I found them 10 miles down the road. I don't really want to be chasing my guinea fowl all over Essex. But I'm thinking I might be able to clip wings, and I'm thinking they're a good alarm system. So if I don't try, I won't know. So I'm going to give it a go. I am going to raise them from a hatch, so I am going to get hatching eggs and raise them from Keats, because I've heard that you can tame them and they sort of keep a bit of a homing instinct that way. Otherwise, with adults, if you get them even as young birds, you have to keep, from what I've heard, you have to keep them in aviaries for a long time so they realise that's their home. But then even when you let them out, some will still just not come back. But I do love them, and I like that prehistoric look about them as well. I think they're beautiful birds, even though, you know, they've got kind of that fleshy head. Robert's Farm says, if you get a guinea fowl, a plus is the delicious eggs. They are naturally salted. Oh wow, I did not know that. But good luck cracking them, they're very hard. I've also heard they're very hard to find. Because most people I know who keep guineas that don't keep them in an aviary, they just disappear and lay eggs all over the place that you never find them. So there could be a guinea, I nearly said guinea pig then, a guinea fowl hunt on the way. Thank you, AJ. AJ says, hit the like button if you're enjoying the stream. And Zule, thank you as well. It says, big thumbs up from me, done. And She's a Bottle of Gardens and Preserves came thumb number 17. So thank you very much. Fringe Dweller is agreeing about the Diamond Doves are favourites. And Robert's Farm said, I love the video you did in Barleyland Farm Park. It was very entertaining and I enjoyed it. I'm glad. It's a really awesome park. If you can ever come to Essex, honestly go. There is so much stuff there. And this is just the winter. And come the spring, there's going to be even more. So I'm going to go back to that Cajun Aviary bird exhibit because it's going to be amazing. And they're doing lambing. It's half term now, so they're doing lambing live. So along with your ticket to the park, you basically also get to go and see basically lambing in action. So that's really exciting as well. There's a couple of farm parks around here. I need to go to another one, but I did really enjoy that one. And Robert from Daybird Avery said that he loved that video too. The huge aviary they had. I know, amazing. So Zule asked, no more issues with the fox. Touch wood. Now I'm down to kind of 2 coops at night. So I have the poultry yard where all the girls are shut in that shed, and it's pretty much impenetrable, and it's got a padlock on the door so nobody can get in. And then the Danvers and the silky babies, so the silky growers, are in my other shed, which is attached to the aviary. The only other birds that are out there are the silkies. Now I have to bring Barry in at night anyway because of his crowing, so he goes into his crow box. And just over the past few weeks, I've been bringing in the 3 remaining girls as well, because I'm just a bit paranoid about leaving them out there all the time. And as I'm bringing him anyway, I've just upgraded their cat box to a slightly larger cat box, so I just bring all 4 of them in now. So at the moment, Mr. Fox has not been around trying to get into coops. Mr. Fox has been around doing the naughty because it's that time of year and they've been yowling and yowling and yowling all night. Yapping, yowling, all sorts. But as yet, we're all right. But the fact of the matter is that fox is never going to go away, and that fox knows that he's had several free feeds from this garden. So I'm going to have to be extremely vigilant. I'm also, at the moment, when I'm not here, not letting my girls out in the poultry yard, which sucks for them because they're kind of in a part-time lockdown now, because they're kind of, when I'm not here, they have to be in the shed. Normally, I would open the shed in the morning, let them out, they'd have the whole day outside, running around the poultry yard, and then at night, I'd just lock them back in again. But given it's so cold, given the state of the fox and the rabbit cycle, I've talked briefly about this before, but currently it's a 10-year cycle, and we're currently in the phase where the rabbit population has plummeted and the fox population is still high. So given that there's tons of foxes around and they're very hungry and it's the middle of winter, I can't even take risks in the daytime. So we haven't had any fox attacks since poor little Gertrude got taken, but I'm kind of nervous at the moment. So I'm keeping it real, trying to look after them as best I can, and making sure they are as protected as I possibly can be. And then obviously when I get the guineas, they will be my alarm system. But I'll have to wait a while, obviously, if I'm going to hatch them out and then grow them up. Fringe Jordan says, please do a video of the cage and aviary bird show, Jeff. That would be great. I definitely will do. It's amazing. I'll see how much footage I can get. Some people might not want me videoing their little their stalls and their birds, but I will see if I can. I've just realised I'm way behind. I'm like 10 minutes behind, so I'm catching up. So if I haven't got to your comment yet, I will try and get there. And if I miss it, please just ask your question again. Ross says, that's a really good idea, death evolution. Never really thought of it like that. Yeah, so that's a kind of, I've never read that anywhere, but that's kind of in the back of my mind that I've been thinking about. AJ says, I'm seriously thinking about getting chickens. I am a massive chicken facilitator. Get chickens. Next, so he says, right, sorry. So I'm going to get back to it. I seriously thinking about getting chickens next year. We have a large garden, but the area we want to dedicate to chickens is about 6 by 4 meters. Would this be okay? Coop size and run? Yes. I would say that when you buy the coop, the companies always overstate the number of chickens you can keep. So my silky coop, which you've probably all seen, suitably houses 4 silkies. I have had 5 in there, but 6. But really, it can only cope with 4 and 5 or 5. But they're bantams. That was sold to me as a coop for 8 grown hens. There is no way I would ever keep 8 grown hens in that coop. You've seen it. It's tiny. So just when you do get a coop, I would try and get the biggest coop you can. Because, yeah, you might get a smaller coop that's maybe for 6 to 8 hens and you get 6 or 5 or 6 hens. But you know, AJ, the chicken addiction and the chicken math. And so I would try and get as big a coop as possible. So you can start off with a few hens and then you've always got more room for a few more. Because it will happen. Daybird Ovary. So Robert says, my bird show videos are some of the most popular. I think there's a dearth of sort of cage and aviary bird stuff on YouTube, so I think people do find that really fascinating. So London Worms and Gardens says, has anyone got any tips on sowing leeks? Last year not one grew, not one germinated at all. This year not a single seed has germinated. That's really weird. I'm going to sow leek again, but why do these seeds hate me so much? I don't have any advice because I find they grow quite easily. The one thing is when you prick them out and you pop them on, you're supposed to make quite a big hole relative to the seed, and you drop them right down, and that gives you the white blanch at the bottom. But as for actual germination, I'm not entirely sure. Brian might know. Maybe Brian has answered below. But I always don't have any difficulty with leeks. Gardening with AJ said, again on chickens, I'm supposing. Says, any recommendations on breeds that will be good layers and not looking to eat them? If you just want a good layer, you could go with a hybrid. You know, hybrids are specifically bred to produce quite a few eggs. So there are lots of different hybrid varieties around, which might be a good option if you just want a few egg birds and not meat birds. Stevie is here. Welcome, hi, and welcome to the chat. Brian is saying the wind is really getting up in Manchester. I can hear it over my headphones. Blimey. I mean, it's actually died down here. It was raining quite a lot, but maybe it's coming our way. I really want this storm season to be done. Although we shouldn't complain because our storm season compared with other storm seasons is not that bad. So Brian says again, zebra finches have always been my favourite birds. Mine too. I've kept them for almost... Oh no, I've kept them for over 20 years now. Forgetting my age. They've always been part of my life. There was a few years in the middle where I didn't have them, and it was definitely absent from my life. So as soon as I went to a pet shop and they were there again, I bought some. Anna says, anyone know where I can buy a greenhouse, a plastic large one, cheap, up to about £50? You can often find them on some pre-loved sites. The only thing I would say is if they're ones where they're saying come and dismantle it yourself and put it back together, a word of caution, because they can be a right pain to get undone and back together. I would personally, if you haven't got a big budget and you're looking for something cheap and maybe something that's not going to last too long, maybe you just want it to last a season or two, I would go to your bargain stores, your season bargain stores. So like Home Basics, Poundland, Pound Stretcher, those sort of places, because they have seasonal products coming in. They normally keep it at a low price because they don't want to keep loads of stock, and they do have some actual good products at this time of year for the gardening season. So if you just want something like a plastic greenhouse that's going to last a year or 2 years or so, I would have a look in those places because they can actually be very, very affordable and efficient for greenhouses that aren't going to stand the test of time but will do completely the best job for a limited period. Dan says, I had a guinea fowl hen called Mike. That's cool. After 2 years of free ranging, she took a wander and I found her headless in one of my fields. Oh no, this is the downside of poultry. It's sad. Robert's Farm says, do you mind showing the Ixworth chick? Bear with me, I'll go and get the Ixworth chick. This is becoming like a weekly update. So here, now don't poop on my hand and don't poop in my mead, because poo in my mead would not be good. But yeah, so here is our little Ixworth, growing really quickly, aren't you? You can see really feathering up. This is the shoulder bit I was talking about. So these shoulder bits here were pushed up onto the heat plate and got a little bit burnt. And are kind of growing out in a whirligig pattern now. You're being very good. I'm waiting for the poo. And look, the cutest little bubba tail. Look at the little tail. Aren't you cute? Now don't disgrace yourself. So there we have our little Ixworth. So you're going to be a star, aren't you? I just wish I could tell whether it's going to be a boy or a girl. They are notoriously hard to sex. You're going to fly down, aren't you? Or poo. Right, before this little one poos on me, I'm going to take it back. Come on. Come on. I'm quite impressed, guys. 2 weeks running and no poo fiasco, which is amazing considering it's a little chick and they poo constantly. So Ross was talking about the rabbit fox cycle. You did tell me that. So Ross was the founder of the fox rabbit cycle. Not the founder of the actual thing, but he told me about it on Twitter and then went off and researched it. So credit to Ross. credit where credit is due. I'm not going to steal your thunder, promise. And Anna said, oh, I hadn't thought of Argos, so this is about the plastic greenhouse. So yeah, definitely have a look, because they do seasonal products and it can be quite good. Steve B says his new allotment has chickens allowed on it. That's awesome, because so many allotments don't actually allow livestock, which is a shame. As long as your coop is completely protected from foxes, I think they should be allowed, because they can be a great addition to any allotment. Have a little sip of mead. Crikey, guys, we've been going an hour already. That's crazy. So Ross says, anyone thinking about starting with hen chickens, seriously consider rehoming some battery hens. The Battery Health Hen Welfare Trust asks for £2.50, and that's a bargain. Plus, you're saving a great egg layer from Dog Food Factory. Great way to learn, as they are hardy, vaccinated, and prolific layers. So, Ross, I agree to a point. The only thing I would say, if you are going to think about getting battery hens, is be ready for deaths, because ultimately the hens that are your egg layers in the commercial industry were bred to lay a ton of eggs, and it rinses their system, and there's a reason they're cold after 18 months, and that's because the egg production drops, but also because their bodies have been doing it for so long, they can get very, very sick very quickly. I'm not putting you off getting some rescue hens, because it is a great way, and I've personally taken in many rescue hens. I would just be aware that they can die, and they can die very quickly. They often get sort of egg issues or infections in their reproductive system, and they can literally, one day they're fine, then their comb goes a bit purple, and the next day they're gone. I had 5 rescued last June. They were Black Rocks. And I only have 2 left. The 3 went very, very quickly. So in the space of about 3 months, I lost all 3. But the 2 that are left feathered up beautifully and now will continue laying. So if you can get them through that transition phase, that's what I found. If you can get them through like the 3, 4, 5, 6 month phase of coming home, getting accustomed to their new feed, being outside, feathering up, getting through a molt, then you can often have a couple, 2, 3, 4 years of great life from them, and it is a really, really good way to learn. But I have found that just be prepared for deaths. And actually, I was talking about that chicken party I went to earlier today. All of us had rescued expats at some point, and several of us, not me, but several of the girls there, were involved in the Essex kind of battery welfare trust as well, and rescuing them. And they all said the same thing, that it's a great way to learn, it's a great way to get chickens and start with chickens for the first time, but just be prepared that you may lose some. Because, you take home 3 or 4 expats and you feel wonderful, you're saving them from certain death, you're giving them a future, and then they die, and it can be very disheartening, and you think, well, what on earth, what did I do? What did I do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. The sad fact is, they're just not, their little bodies couldn't handle it. But that's not to say don't rescue them, because I will get some more this year, but just be aware. But Ross, you make a very, very good point. You can save, £2.50 for a bird. It's going to keep laying eggs for quite a long time. And it's and they're normally fairly placid as well. So it's a great way to kind of get into chicken husbandry for the first time. Dan says, how much do silkies lay? Not hugely. I find with silkies, they kind of revert a little bit to the wild bird form. So, most of your chickens will lay an egg a day or an egg every other day. Throughout the year, there'll be some seasonal fluctuations, obviously, and they'll stop laying towards in the winter. But they'll generally just keep on laying eggs. I find with silkies, because they're prone to going broody, I find that they do kind of follow a more traditional egg-laying approach, in that they tend to lay clutches, or certainly the ones I have tend to lay clutches. So they will lay prolifically for maybe 3 weeks, an egg every day or every other day, and then they will all go broody. And then they will not lay any eggs because they're broody. And then, you know, it'll be 6 months or 3, 4, 5, 6 months before they then start laying again. So they tend to go through this weird little broody phase. And that's, if you think about it, that's kind of the natural behaviour to do it. That most birds lay a clutch, incubate them, hatch the babies, rear them, and then lay the next clutch. And I do find that the silkies tend to kind of follow that kind of pattern. If they don't with you, I'd love to hear it, because I've certainly, from my own experience, that seems to be what happens. At the moment, my silkies are all laying, so I know that when it comes to me wanting to get their eggs to incubate them next month, they'll probably have all gone broody. But that's just the way of life. Good night, Jorn. Thank you for coming by. Anna says, have I made a mistake? I fed my chickens some corned beef and they seem to love it. And now, nowhere to rely, they seem to be really annoyed when I don't feed it to them. You shouldn't really feed them corned beef. You're not supposed to kind of feed them anything like that from the kitchen. And also, chickens do get habits. And yeah, so they've probably got used to having that. And now they're annoyed that you're not giving it to them. But I wouldn't feed it to them. It's probably not very good for them. And certainly I don't think Defra would like you feeding that to them. So I would just wean them off it. Robert's Farm says, wow, the Exworth is getting so big. Thanks for showing him. I know, it is growing really, really quickly. I do really hope it's a girl. But if it's a boy, that's fine. He's staying. He's going to be the founder of my new flock. Jeff Eden is here. Hi, Jeff. Welcome. Ross says, lol, I forgive you. Thank you. I'm not disagreeing on the whole expat thing. I think it's just important for people to know the downside. You know, because over the years I've rescued a lot of expats, but they don't last very long. Whereas the hens that I've actually hatched out from chicks myself and raised them myself, I've hardly lost any. So I think you just need to be aware and ready and prepared for it as well. And I think the sad thing is a lot of people that do go and get expats are families where they think, oh, we're going to have 4, we'll have 1 each, we'll name them all. And then, like your son's chicken then dies overnight. And then you have to explain that whole thing. And then also a lot of new people that go and get expat tree chickens are brand new to the hobby. And so they don't have any experience with chickens. And because of expat trees' nature, and they're prone to becoming ill, you end up spending a fortune on vet bills because you're in and out of vets. Finding a good avian vet or a livestock vet can be quite hard to find. So if you're just going down to your local vet who normally handles cats and dogs, they're just going to charge you a normal consult fee, not a livestock fee. So you could end up spending a fortune as well on ill and sick expatriate hens, which you didn't know was going to be quite that costly. Crikey, so everybody's pound stretcher seems to have shut down. Mine's still going, but maybe that's just because I live in a cheap area. Ross says, I've had 15 to 20 battery hens and most have lasted me 5-6 years. That's awesome. I've only lost 1 to 2 in a quick period of time. Yeah, you might have been lucky. Also, the farm where they were rescued from might have also been a really, really high welfare farm. That's the thing with battery hens and free-ranged or barn hens. The welfare standards across the farms, though they should be the same level, are not. So you might get a good batch and you might get a bad batch. For instance, I was talking to somebody today who also got some black rocks from the same batch as me, and the same happened to them. A lot of their hens died really, really quickly. So it's just horrible, isn't it? AJ's off to make a cuppa, although that was 7 minutes ago, so you might be back by now. Ross says, you're loving that mead. I am. Have you ever tried a homebrew? It's very easy. I can't wait for the elderflower season. The simplest recipe and lush, if a little strong. I've never made my own meads, and that is something I really need to do. And I've meant to do it the past couple of years, especially with elderflowers, because there's tons of them on the farm. So I am going to try and make some, because it would be nice to make your own mead. I mean, this, luckily, I haven't drunk all of that, by the way. This was split between us last night. There were 3 of us. So I've literally only just had this 1 glass. Having all of that on a live stream might be a little bit much. But yeah, I would love to make some of my own homebrew at some point. Oh, AJ. He's just said it could be a documentary title, Me and My Leek Seeds and Why We Don't Get Along. I think we all need to go and grow some leeks and see how they do. Sandra says, I don't get on with coriander gardening. With everyone says it's easy, it doesn't like me. Radishes. Radishes do not like me. I cannot grow a radish to save my life. Now, I did learn last year, one of the things, and I can't remember who told me, it might have been AJ. One of the things might have been the soil was too fertile. Because I put a lot of chicken muck into my beds. And so sometimes if it's too fertile, like with carrots, you won't necessarily get a long stemmed stalk on a carrot if it's too fertile. It will split, and that's when they get all the hairy roots coming off the main root, because they're reaching out into the soil, because all around them is really nutritious soil. So instead of growing down, they just grow everywhere. And radishes, for example, often don't bulk up when they're in really fertile soil, because why do they need to? They've got all the fertility sitting right there, so they produce all the leaves and the flowers, and they don't need to make a big radish bulb. So this year I'm going to be growing radishes where can I grow them? I think I'm going to grow them where my kale grew last year, or this season, because the kale is a big feeder, so it'll have taken quite a few nutrients. So I'm going to try swapping the radishes into that section and seeing whether they do any better. But that's the thing I love about gardening as well, because it's a lot of experiment, tried and tested. You can never know everything. You know, you can sit down and try and absorb all the information about a certain type of veggie you grow, but until you actually go and try it yourself and work through the issues, you won't know. So experience is best. And now I know that hopefully this year I might be able to grow some radish. I would love to, because I love radishes. Calendula Fields Nursery is here. Hello. So another Aussie person. So hello, welcome to the live stream from Oz. I'm glad you could join us. Dan says, I'm going to get 2 silky hens, but I won't have pedigree silkies because I'm going to get some fertile Vorwerk eggs to get them to hatch out. I don't have pedigree silkies, as you've seen, because they have that toasty marshmallow. I think a fluffy silky butt is just another nice fluffy silky butt. I do love a good silky. Although I've got an explosion of them at the moment, because I've obviously got the adults, got 5 growers, and then over with little Igsworth, I've got another 3, and then I'm going to have loads more eggs going in to try and develop that colour. So it's going to be an explosion of silkies this year, which I never intended to do, by the way. Never intended to having silkies, because they don't, as I said, they don't really lay many eggs. You can't really eat them. I mean, you can, but, you know, there's not a lot of meat on them, so... So Jay is just asking about the UK rule with kitchen scraps. Yeah, we're not allowed to do it. It's against the rules. It all happened it all started when the mad cow disease thing happened, because mad cow disease in the UK was brought on by contamination of their feed. So that was when all these rules and regulations were brought in about the contamination of feed and avoiding the contamination. So now you're not allowed to feed kitchen scraps, because the idea is you could have cut up your kitchen vegetables on the same chopping board that you had meat on, and then it could have got contaminated and got into a flock. Now, personally, I think that there should be a division between backyard keepers whose meat and eggs don't go into the market and those that do. So for me personally, because I sell the eggs, I think I shouldn't be able to feed kitchen scraps. But if you're just keeping 4 hens at home and you're never going to eat them, and you personally are the only one that eats the egg, I don't actually see the major problem with it. It is a pain, but unfortunately we have to abide by the rules, and there are some strict rules. Now, I don't know anybody that's been done by it, but it clearly states you can get fined £1,000 per hen if you're found to be feeding kitchen scraps. So I just advise everybody to steer well clear and not do it if you're in the UK, because you don't want to be that one person they decide to make an example of. Fringe dweller. Yeah, I'm not going to get drunk on the live stream. That would not be good. YouTube might not be very happy either. Jeff Eden says he grew 1 radish. It was probably a $50 radish with all the effort I put in. I know, that's the thing, isn't it? When you put so much time and energy into growing something and then you're like, That's all I get. One radish. So I am going to try. I don't know whether any of you watch another channel. What's it called? The Rustic Gardener? I think it's the Rustic Gardener. And he actually grows some of his beetroot, radishes in seed trays. Because the soil depth is so short, they have no option but to pop up. And because there's a limited amount of soil in there as well, there is a limited amount of fertility. And so again, the roots bulk up. So I may also try that because I'd love to see how that works. And he had some beautiful French breakfast radishes that were just growing in literally a seed tray like this, and they'd obviously reached the bottom of the tray and they'd pushed their way up, and they were beautiful things. So I might try that as well. So Jay just said the only mad cows here are on two legs. I tend to agree about here as well. I mean, yeah, there are some completely mad. I mean, actually, I'm quite barmy myself, so that probably applies to me. And Liz says, yeah, and I had a drop-in inspection a couple of weeks ago, so they do check up on us. So yeah, they do, especially if you're registered to sell eggs or you're registered as a small holding. They will just stop in and check that you're doing everything right. They don't generally fine you instantly. It's normally for repeat offenders, but they do just drop in and they will give you tips if you're not doing things quite right. So it's well worth sort of playing by the rules. I'm not a person to try and get around things because I just don't think it's worth the time and the stress. So I try to play by the rules and do everything I can within what's allowed. And to be fair, we do have all these rules and restrictions, but other places have different rules and restrictions. You know, we can just have cockerels if we want. We can keep chickens most places, whereas I know all sorts of places in the world where that is not okay. So Jeff Eden, I know, has chickens and he kind of lives on the edge because he's not supposed to. And I know other people are not supposed to. So it's, you know, it's hard. Gardening with AJ says, Jeff, do you still have a cat? Because I have some cat powder that you spread around and it scares away. Must be the smell or something, and I'm not sure it would work on the foxes. I do still have a cat, but he's not really an outside cat. He's normally actually just here, but he's not here at the moment. He's not really an outside cat, so I could probably try that powder and see with the foxes. Although I think human urine is probably still the best way to go. Ross, in relation to the DEFRA rules, the solution to the DEFRA rule is have a nice incissor in the garden, allotment, and trim your veg before you take it into the house. Then you can fit all the tops peelings directly to the chicken, which is exactly what I do. So that's the really nice thing about growing your own as well, is that whenever I pull out my beets, like I did yesterday, before they come into the house, the tops got chopped off and thrown in with the chickens. The same with old kale leaves and things like that. So it's definitely, that is how you get around it. It's mainly that it just mustn't come into your kitchen. So you get around that by never taking it into your kitchen in the first place. So yeah, very, very good tip from Ross there. And that's how you can sort it out. And Anna says, hi Jeff, yes, I watched your video about DEFRA rules, which were very good, but I literally thought scraps as in leftovers. Yeah, I know. You do think of scraps as in, you know, you've had a plate of food and what's left. But no, it's literally like peelings and everything. All basically good stuff. Carrot peelings, full of good stuff. But you're not allowed to feed it to them, which is mad. We have some leek advice from Brian. So Brian says, my leeks are sown in large pots because they will be there until space is available for them. But I've never had problems with germination. So maybe we should try them in pots. But as I say, I've never had actual issues germinating them. Perhaps there's some rogue packets that went out that just were old. Amber is saying, hi guys, just saying hey. Hi. I never make it to the live streams usually. It's very busy here in my house at this time. I catch up later by watching the full live stream to see what I've missed. Crikey, Amber, that is dedication. Watching an hour and a half of me just blithering on like an idiot. But thank you, and I'm glad you stopped by quickly to say hi. You're very, very welcome. And do you know what? I have reached the end of the chat. I think that deserves a little bit of mead. I feel like I've been topping it up when, you know, down here I've been topping it up, but I haven't. I promise. Liz says, we like your blithering. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad somebody does. My poor husband probably doesn't because I blither. He has it 24 hours. You guys just have it 1.5 hours a week. Straw Family Farm is here. Hi. They said, just got here and popped in to say hi. Welcome and thank you for popping by and saying hi. I very much appreciate you popping in, even if it is just to say hi and then you got a dash. It's nice to see you. Robin says, can you throw your scraps? Sorry, we're just rolling up. Robin says, can you throw your scraps into compost and then after a few days give it to your chickens to scratch around in? No, you're not allowed chickens in your compost heap either. If you've got kitchen scraps in there. Again, it's the whole cross-contamination thing. So your chickens can have compost that is completely well rotted, but they can't go into your compost heaps if you've got kitchen scraps. And I think they can't go in if you've got manure in there either, like not their manure, like other manure. So no, unfortunately, you're not allowed. They're not allowed in there either. So yes, so Liz just said, hi Robin, no you can't. The chickens cannot go into the compost bin. It is a pain. Because chickens are really good scratchers, and if you watch a lot of the American channels, they use their chickens to help forage and kick through and go over the compost. So of course we can't do that here. Gardening with AJ says, I got my seeds from Wilco's seed sale for 15p. That's amazing. Also, our parsnip seeds only cost me 5p. I missed that because I did go yesterday and I bought some parsley, but that was 99p. So I obviously missed the seed sale. So if I grow and I'm successful, I have got parsnips for 5p and they're every bit worth the effort. They surely are for 5p for a whole packet. That's amazing. Danielle says, I watch all your live streams if I didn't get to watch live as well. Wow, thanks Danielle. That completely surprises me because that's why I do that intro at the beginning. So I think, you know, if you missed it, you can just watch the first 10-15 minutes and then you've kind of got everything. But sitting down for an hour and a half is huge dedication, so thank you very much. Jay says, Sard loves the live chat, it gives him an hour off. Right? That's why he's like, are you going to go and do a live chat, Jeff? Go on. Go on. Yeah, I think it does give him an hour off. Although I've been out all day today, so he's had the day off. Although he's been at work, so that's not been fun for him. Amber says, lol, you're such a good rule follower. In MD USA, luckily I have no such rule about feeding my chicks scraps from the chick kitchen. And trust me, they get plenty of them. If it wasn't a rule over here, they would get plenty of them as well, Amber. I would, you know, be constantly feeding them kitchen scraps if we were allowed. But alas, we're really not. Hex Horror says, can chickens live in boxes? Well, no, they can't really live in boxes. That's not good for the animal welfare. And I don't think that's very good for the bird itself. So no, they can't live in boxes. Robin. Liz says, Liz, that is a pain. Chickens get a lot of bugs, etc. from the compost. They do. They really, really do. So it's sad that they can't go and have a nice scratch around. Ross says, I have a dedicated weed pile for the chickens. Only weeds from the garden go on it, and the chickens get to have a good root for slugs and hornworms in it, etc. There we go. Another really good good advice from Ross. So yeah, you could create a weed pile that hasn't got kitchen scraps in it, and then you're all good. That was worms, not horns. Well, you get hornworms as well, so I'll let you off. Look, Brian says, unfortunately, I've missed a few live streams, but I do still watch them through. I'm mega impressed with you guys for watching an entire live stream. I mean, fair enough, half an hour, but an hour and a half. That's a long time, especially when I don't always read the question before I answer it. Straw Family Farm is popping off to get some dinner. See you later. Thank you for stopping by. I thought that question was a joke too. That was in relation to the box comments. I was a bit confused. If you are still listening, Hex Horrors, I didn't read all your messages. So, yes. So if you're still here, tell us what you were saying, because I didn't get a chance to read them all through. Gardening with AJ says, can chickens peck around in grass clippings? They can. The only problem with grass... Well, it's not a problem per se, but with grass clippings you just have to be careful because chickens will gorge on grass. And now imagine they're just going across a lawn and they're pecking grass, and they're pecking tiny little bits because they're snapping it off through their beak. With clippings, there's nothing to hold the clipping back. So, there's nothing to break it. So if you've got a long clipping, they can basically swallow it. They can sit in their crop and it can ferment, and they can get a really horrible blocked fermented crop. So if you do give grass clippings to your chickens, just make sure it's cut up nice and small. When I first started keeping them, I used to tear off clumps of grass, so the pieces of grass were probably this long. Big mistake, because they just swallow the whole thing. They haven't got teeth. It's not in the ground, so they can't tear it off. So they would be swallowing long pieces of grass, which would then curl around inside the crop, wouldn't digest properly, and then they'd get a horrible blocked fermented crop. So yes, by all means, you can give them grass clippings to enrich their diet, but just make sure they cut them really nice and small, because otherwise you can get that problem. And also, well, I would do it with moderation as well. Don't give them too much. Ross says all these good tips must be the beer. Yes, it must be the beer and the mead. Dan says I just let my chickens in the garden when I can with gardening. Yes, I'm the same. When I'm out there, especially in the summer months when I'm out, and I know I'm going to be out there for 2, 3, or 4 hours, I just let them out. I don't let the poultry girls out, the poultry yard girls, because they're big brutes and they scratch up everything. But I do let the Danvers and the Silkies come and have a run around the garden, and they're sort of a little less destructive than the others. Daniel was saying I think it was a troll in relation to that. I think it was as well, which is why I did actually quickly block the messages, because that's the other thing. When I'm behind on the messages, I don't know what's happened below, so I just blocked. So Jeff asked, how is the fermentation process going? Noticed anything significant yet? Yeah, well, the food is lasting forever. So I bought 1 bag of barley wheat, which I'm using for my fermentation process. I bought that a couple of weeks ago for £6. I'm not even halfway through yet. They have stopped eating so many layers pellets because they're nice and full up from the wheat or from the barley. Less poo, which is also great. Less eggs, but I don't think the eggs is in relation to the barley instead of the layers. I think it's just because we've had this mega cold snap over here. So it started to get milder and nice and warm, and then it's got really cold again. So I think it's more that has kind of stopped the chickens in their tracks with the egg laying. So I'm not going to change anything because I want to see whether the doing the same feeding system I'm doing now and the eggs go on the rise again. If the eggs don't start to rise when the warmer weather comes along again, I might have to give them more layers pellets and less fermented feed. But it's definitely an interesting process, and they definitely love it. And I love it because the cost is right down. Oh, and Liz makes another good point about grass clippings. It's not fabulous if you use a petrol mower. It always seems to stink of petrol at our house. Yeah, I think when you use a petrol mower, the smell does get everywhere, so it might also not be a great idea. Brian says, you can't beat a good drink of mead, the drink of monks, I believe. Well, there we go. We should all drink mead in that case. But it is very, very nice. It's a blackberry mead inspired by the lost gardens of Heligan. So, and that is a place I would love to visit. I am going down to Cornwall later this year, so I'm hoping that I can be able to stop by the lost gardens of Heligans and see them. So Liz says, when I fed the ducks on just mixed corn for a while, they stopped laying. When I reintroduced layers pellets, the eggs came back. So that could be one of the reasons. I've left. My hens still have got access to layers pellets. They're just not eating as many. So it'll be interesting to see the progress. At the moment, I'm getting enough eggs out of them. So we'll see. But especially when it gets to spring and I really want tons of eggs, we'll see whether the ratios are working out properly. Anna says, what is mead? Because I have 2 large elderflower trees. Anna, I'll be completely honest, I don't really know. I was bought this as a gift. It's blooming lovely. I'm not entirely sure. So that's not very helpful. So if anybody knows, Brian might know, Ross might know, then please tell us what mead is, because I'm not entirely sure. Fringe Dweller just asked Liz when she's getting quail. Liz has put off the quail for a little bit because she's inundated with big meat bird chickens and chicks, so she's going to do those first. Ross says, if you put the grass cuttings on bare soil and cover with a sheet or a sack, leave for a few days, the worms come up to eat it. That's how us anglers catch them for bait. But you could always collect the worms. Yeah, that's a good idea as well. And actually, you could even do that in an area where the chickens are allowed to get to. So if you put a fine coating of grass clippings across and then covered it in the sheet, and then pull the sheet back and let the chickens across, they'd go mental. They'd have, grass and worms all in one go. So Ross has come to our answer. So he says mead is honey, wine, or beer. Honey, wine, or beer. And Liz says, isn't it a ferment drink made with honey instead of sugar? And Jay says, I think mead is made from honey rather than sugar. And Alice says, I just want to know if it's wine. It tastes very much like wine. This is a blackberry infused one. What does it say? Not a lot. I'll have to look it up. It doesn't... Oh, hang on. It says this is traditional red grape-based rich Cornish honey mead. Yeah, so as these guys have just said, it must be made with honey and not sugar. Which must be why it's so blimmin' nice. So, see, I've just learned something. And Brian says mead was made from honey by the monks on Holy Islian. Liz says it's not a wine, it's heavier than wine. Yeah, it is heavy. It's got a more port type feel to it, but it is really, really lovely. Right, guys, we're at an hour and a half already. So it has been a brilliant chat. Thank you for all coming by. I think I'm going to kind of sign off. Jay is saying, think of the antibiotic qualities. Antibiotics, down they go. Lovely. And what are the laws on home brewing wine? I'm not entirely sure because I haven't done it myself, but I basically think you can do it, you just can't sell it. I only know that from the Archers. I don't know how many of you might listen to the Archers, but I know that they make a lot of their own cider, but they're just not allowed to sell it because you need an alcohol license for that. So I don't know, but I think you can pretty much ferment and home brew yourself. You just can't sell it without a license. London Worms and Garden says, I'm beat, folks. I'm going to say goodnight to you, young'uns, and leave you to it. Thanks for a lovely chat and a great company as always. Night, night. Well, I'm going to say night, night as well because I've had a very busy day and I think we all have. And for us over in the UK, it is 11:30 now. So thank you so much for stopping by and having our lovely weekly chat. What is next week? So next week is... Yeah, I should be here for next week's video, and obviously it's the bird show on the Sunday after the live stream. But yes, until next week, thank you very much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. It makes me very excited to stop in for a Saturday night and see you guys and have a good chat. So until next week, good night and cheers. Bye.